A lot of people assume that constantly worrying about blood sugar spikes is just a normal part of getting older with diabetes, something you're supposed to accept and move on from. You know the feeling. It's 7:30 in the morning, you're standing in your kitchen, staring at your cereal bowl. You want to pour milk over your oatmeal, something you've done 10,000 times in your life, but now your hand hesitates over the carton. Your mind races. Will this spike my glucose? Should I use less? Should I skip it entirely? What used to be the most automatic part of your morning routine now feels like a medical calculation. Or picture this. You're at your favorite coffee shop with friends. Everyone's ordering lattes, cappuccinos, drinks they love. The barista looks at you expectantly. You want to order what you always used to get, but instead you hear yourself say, "Just black coffee, please." Your friends don't notice, but you feel it. That small surrender. That quiet acknowledgement that another simple pleasure has been taken from you because of diabetes. And here's one more. It's 2:47 in the morning. You wake up feeling strange, shaky, disoriented. Your heart beating just a little too fast. You stumble to the bathroom, pull out your glucose monitor, and see that number staring back at you. 214. High again. You can't even remember what you ate yesterday that could have caused this. You followed the rules. You avoided the obvious triggers. But your blood sugar surged anyway, while you were sleeping, doing absolutely nothing wrong. But here's the truth. The truth most doctors don't take the time to sit down and explain to you. It's not always just old age. According to the American Diabetes Association, over 34 million Americans have diabetes, and nearly 90% of those over age 65 struggle with blood sugar management, despite following standard dietary advice. The Centers for Disease Control reports that diabetes-related complications have increased by nearly 30% in the past decade among seniors specifically, not because people aren't trying, but because they're often following outdated, one-size-fits-all nutritional guidance that doesn't address the specific metabolic changes happening in aging bodies. And here's what almost nobody tells you about what happens while you sleep. Every night, between the hours of roughly 2 a.m. and 8 a.m., your liver engages in a process called gluconeogenesis, literally creating glucose from stored proteins and releasing it into your bloodstream. For people with diabetes, especially those over 60, this process often goes into overdrive. Your body thinks it's protecting you from low blood sugar, but instead, it's flooding your system with glucose you don't need, can't properly process, and can't control because you're unconscious. This is called the dawn phenomenon, and it's why so many diabetics wake up with mysteriously high blood sugar despite eating nothing for 8 hours. That silent damage is happening right now, night after night, stressing your pancreas, hardening your arteries, damaging the tiny blood vessels in your eyes, your kidneys, your nerves, while you sleep. So the question becomes, can I actually enjoy milk again without spiking my blood sugar? And is there anything natural I can do about it without depending on expensive medications or risky insulin adjustments that leave me feeling like I'm walking a tightrope every single day? Here's what you need to understand about the dairy industry and conventional medical advice. For decades, the standard recommendation for diabetics has been simple. Avoid whole milk, switch to skim or low-fat, count every carbohydrate, and accept that milk is basically liquid sugar you need to carefully ration. The pharmaceutical companies love this approach because it keeps you focused on managing symptoms with more medications, more test strips, more interventions. The dairy industry loves it too because they can market diabetic-friendly products at premium prices, products that often contain additives, thickeners, and hidden sugars that make the problem worse. Nobody profits when you discover that the type of milk matters far more than the amount, and that certain specialty milks contain compounds that can actually help regulate blood sugar rather than spike it. A groundbreaking 2022 study published in the Journal of Dairy Science followed 156 adults with type 2 diabetes over 6 months and discovered something remarkable. Participants who consumed specific types of milk with particular protein and fat profiles experienced significantly lower fasting glucose levels, reduced HbA1c markers, and less dramatic dawn phenomenon spikes, with the most significant improvements occurring in the overnight hours when blood sugar regulation is typically at its worst. The researchers concluded that the damage from poor blood sugar control is indeed most active at night, but that strategic nutritional choices, especially the type of milk consumed in the evening, could meaningfully interrupt that destructive cycle. But here's the good news. And this is the part I really want you to hear. Certain types of milk contain specific proteins, fats, and bioactive compounds that your pancreas and liver are literally craving to restore healthy blood sugar regulation. They can slow gastric emptying, which means glucose enters your bloodstream gradually instead of all at once. They can support insulin sensitivity, helping your cells actually respond to the insulin your body produces. And they can reduce overnight glucose production, calming down that overactive liver that's spiking your morning numbers. And here's the one that surprises almost everyone. The #1 milk for diabetics isn't some expensive specialty product you need to order online. It's something that's probably already available at your local grocery store. You just didn't know which one to choose or how to use it correctly. It works through a unique mechanism involving slow-release proteins that act like a metabolic buffer, protecting you from both spikes and crashes throughout the night. My name is Dr. Samuel Whitaker. I'm a certified nutritionist specializing in senior metabolic health, and over the past 18 years, I've worked with thousands of people over 60 who are managing diabetes, prediabetes, and blood sugar challenges. My mission is simple: helping seniors protect their metabolic health and maintain independence using evidence-informed, natural approaches that work with your body, not against it. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 types of milk that research suggests can support better blood sugar control and exactly how to use them the right way, including the one that stands head and shoulders above the rest. Before we get into it, I'd love to know where you're watching from right now. Drop your city or country in the comments below. We're building a real global community here, people who refuse to accept unstable blood sugar and constant restriction as something inevitable. I see comments from Australia, Canada, the UK, Nigeria, India, all across the United States, and every single one reminds me why this work matters. And one more thing, and this is genuinely important. Everything I'm sharing today is for educational purposes. I am not your doctor. This is not medical advice, and it's not a substitute for working with a licensed healthcare provider who knows your complete medical history. If you're experiencing severe blood sugar swings, diabetic symptoms, or you're on insulin or other medications, you need to talk to your doctor before making any changes to your diet. Your pancreas, your kidneys, your heart, they're too important to gamble with. Now, let's count down from number 7. Number 7 is coconut milk. It's creamy, it's tropical, and you probably see it in the store and walk right past it thinking it's just for curries or exotic recipes. But for blood sugar control, coconut milk is genuinely impressive, and research backs that up. Here's why it matters. As we age, our cells become progressively more resistant to insulin. Think of insulin as a key trying to unlock your cells so glucose can enter and be used for energy. But in insulin resistance, it's like someone changed the locks. Your pancreas produces more and more insulin, more keys, but they just don't fit as well anymore. The result? Glucose builds up in your bloodstream, and before you know it, you're dealing with chronic fatigue, increased thirst, blurred vision, tingling in your feet, and frustrating weight gain, especially around your midsection. That's not just aging, that's insulin resistance. And there's growing evidence that it's addressable. Coconut milk is loaded with medium-chain triglycerides, or MCTs. Think of MCTs as a different kind of fuel for your body, one that doesn't require insulin to be used for energy. Unlike long-chain fats that get stored, MCTs go straight to your liver and get converted into ketones, which your brain and muscles can use immediately, taking pressure off your glucose insulin system. It also contains lauric acid, which has been shown to have anti-inflammatory properties that may help protect insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. The research here is meaningful. A study published in Diabetes and Metabolic Syndrome found that participants with type 2 diabetes who consumed coconut milk daily for 90 days experienced measurable improvements in fasting blood glucose, along with reduced inflammatory markers. The MCTs appeared to support better metabolic flexibility, the body's ability to switch between fuel sources, which is exactly what becomes impaired in diabetes. Simple dietary change, measurable results. So how do you use it? Keep it simple. Use 1/4 to 1/2 cup of full-fat, unsweetened coconut milk. The kind in a can, not the watered-down carton version, in your coffee, smoothies, or oatmeal. You can also use it in soups or curries. Aim to include it earlier in the day, ideally at breakfast, when your body's insulin sensitivity tends to be highest. And here's a detail most people miss completely. Always shake the can vigorously before opening. The cream separates and rises to the top, so if you don't shake it, you're getting inconsistent amounts of those beneficial fats. The MCTs are concentrated in the fatty portion, so you want that evenly distributed throughout the milk. That's where the metabolic benefit lives. Something as ordinary as coconut milk, better insulin sensitivity, reduced inflammation, metabolic flexibility. No pill, no procedure. Number 6 on our list is one you probably already love, and that's almond milk. And if you've ever wondered why your blood sugar still spikes even when you switch to healthy plant milks, you'll want to hear this. Number 6 is almond milk, but not the kind most people buy. It's mild, it's versatile, you see it everywhere in the health food aisle marketed to diabetics. But here's the problem. Most commercial almond milk is nutritionally empty and loaded with added sugars, carrageenan, and thickeners that can actually worsen insulin resistance. Here's why it matters. Your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living in your intestines, plays a massive role in blood sugar regulation. When your gut bacteria are out of balance, they produce inflammatory compounds called lipopolysaccharides that interfere with insulin signaling. Your cells literally can't hear insulin's message to let glucose in. Before you know it, you're experiencing blood sugar swings, intense sugar cravings, brain fog, and digestive issues that seem completely unrelated to diabetes, but they're all connected. That's not just aging, that's gut dysbiosis. And there's growing evidence that it's addressable. Real almond milk, the kind made from actual almonds and water, is loaded with vitamin E, magnesium, and healthy monounsaturated fats. Think of it as a gentle buffer for your blood sugar. The fats slow the absorption of any carbohydrates you're eating. The magnesium supports insulin receptor function, and the vitamin E acts as a powerful antioxidant protecting your blood vessels from glucose-related damage. The research here is meaningful. A study published in Nutrition and Metabolism found that people with type 2 diabetes who replaced dairy milk with unsweetened almond milk showed improvements in both fasting glucose and post-meal blood sugar spikes over 12 weeks. The magnesium content appeared to play a key role, as many diabetics are chronically deficient in this crucial mineral. So how do you use it? Keep it simple. Choose unsweetened almond milk with minimal ingredients, ideally just almonds, water, and maybe a tiny bit of sea salt. Avoid anything with evaporated cane juice, rice syrup, or more than 2 grams of carbs per serving. Use 1 cup in smoothies, coffee, or cereal. Best consumed in the morning or early afternoon. And here's a detail most people miss completely. Look for almond milk that's fortified with calcium and vitamin D. Here's why that matters. Calcium helps regulate insulin secretion from your pancreas, and vitamin D improves insulin sensitivity. When you get both together in your almond milk, you're creating a synergistic effect that significantly enhances blood sugar control. Most people just grab the cheapest option and miss this completely. Something as ordinary as almond milk, stabilized blood sugar, better insulin function, protected blood vessels, no pill, no procedure. Number 5 is cashew milk. And this is one of those sleeper picks that almost nobody talks about but absolutely deserves your attention. Number 5 is cashew milk. It's creamy, slightly sweet naturally, and you probably walk right past it because almond milk gets all the attention. But for diabetics specifically, cashew milk has some unique advantages that make it worth considering. Here's why it matters. As we age with diabetes, our blood vessels undergo a process called glycation. Basically, excess glucose in your bloodstream starts sticking to proteins in your arterial walls, making them stiff and dysfunctional. This is called forming advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These damaged proteins contribute to heart disease, kidney damage, vision loss, and poor circulation. Before you know it, you're dealing with cold feet, slow-healing wounds, increasing blood pressure, and that frightening reality that diabetes affects every system in your body. That's not just aging, that's vascular glycation, and there's growing evidence that it's addressable. Cashew milk is loaded with anachoritic acids and copper. Think of anachoritic acids as tiny repair crews for your blood vessels. They've been shown to reduce the formation of those AGEs I mentioned, literally protecting your arteries from glucose damage. The copper content supports the production of superoxide dismutase, one of your body's most powerful internal antioxidants. Cashew milk also has a uniquely low glycemic impact, meaning it barely raises blood sugar at all, while providing a creamy satisfaction that makes it easy to stick with long-term. The research here is meaningful. A study published in Molecular Nutrition and Food Research found that compounds in cashews significantly reduced markers of oxidative stress and glycation in diabetic participants over 8 weeks. The researchers noted that regular cashew consumption was associated with improved vascular function and reduced cardiovascular risk factors. So how do you use it? Keep it simple. Choose unsweetened cashew milk with no added sugars, should have less than 1 gram of sugar per serving. Use 1/2 to 1 cup in your morning coffee, smoothies, or even just drink it straight. It's naturally creamy enough that it feels indulgent without any metabolic cost. And here's a detail most people miss completely. Cashew milk is much thicker than other nut milks, which means it creates greater satiety. You feel fuller longer. This is huge for diabetics because one of the biggest challenges is controlling hunger between meals, which leads to snacking and blood sugar roller coasters. The thickness comes from cashew's higher starch content, but it's resistant starch that feeds beneficial gut bacteria without spiking glucose. Use this to your advantage by having cashew milk mid-morning. It'll help you coast to lunch without cravings. Something as ordinary as cashew milk, protected blood vessels, reduced glycation, better satiety, no pill, no procedure. But the top 4 are even more powerful, starting with one that has some of the most impressive clinical data I've ever seen. Number 4 is flaxseed milk. It's earthy, it's slightly nutty, and honestly, most people have never even tried it. But if you're serious about controlling overnight blood sugar, that devastating dawn phenomenon I mentioned earlier, this is one you need to know about. Here's why it matters. Your body relies on something called incretin hormones, specifically GLP-1, to signal your pancreas to release insulin at exactly the right time and in exactly the right amount. It's your natural blood sugar control system. But as we age, especially with long-standing diabetes, incretin production declines. Your body loses the ability to fine-tune insulin release. So you get these wild swings, too much insulin at the wrong time causing crashes, not enough when you actually need it, causing spikes. Before you know it, you're experiencing dizziness after meals, nighttime sweats, waking up exhausted with high blood sugar, and feeling like your body is completely out of sync. That's not just aging, that's incretin dysfunction. And there's growing evidence that it's addressable. Flaxseed milk is loaded with alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, lignans, and soluble fiber. Think of ALA as a metabolic reset button. It's an omega-3 fat that's been shown to improve insulin sensitivity and reduce systemic inflammation. The lignans are phytoestrogens that help regulate glucose metabolism, and the soluble fiber forms a gel in your digestive tract that dramatically slows glucose absorption. This combination creates what researchers call a second meal effect, stabilizing blood sugar not just from the meal you just ate, but also the next meal, hours later. The research here is meaningful. A study published in Nutrition Research in 2023 found that participants with type 2 diabetes who consumed 30 grams of ground flaxseed daily experienced significant reductions in fasting glucose and HbA1c over 12 weeks, with the most dramatic improvements in morning blood sugar readings. The fiber and omega-3s appeared to reduce that harmful overnight glucose production I talked about earlier. So how do you use it? Keep it simple. Use unsweetened flaxseed milk, ideally one that lists cold-pressed or whole flaxseed on the label. Consume 1 cup in the evening, this is key, about 2 to 3 hours before bed. You can drink it straight, blend it into a small smoothie, or use it in a bowl of berries with a handful of nuts. And here's a detail most people miss completely. Flaxseed milk must be refrigerated and used within 7 to 10 days of opening because those precious omega-3 fats oxidize rapidly when exposed to air and light. Oxidized omega-3s not only lose their benefit, they can actually become pro-inflammatory. So buy smaller containers, keep them cold, and shake well before each use. If it smells even slightly bitter or fishy, it's gone bad. Throw it out. The freshness is non-negotiable if you want the blood sugar benefits. Something as simple as flaxseed milk, improved insulin timing, reduced morning glucose, extended metabolic benefits, no pill, no procedure. Quick question. Have you experienced any of these blood sugar symptoms recently? The dawn phenomenon? The afternoon crashes? The constant worry about every food choice? Let me know in the comments below. Your experience may help other viewers who are dealing with similar challenges. Now we're getting into the top 3, and these might actually surprise you, especially the final one. Number 3 is oat milk, but only if you choose it correctly. It's creamy, naturally sweet, and it's become wildly popular in coffee shops everywhere. But here's the truth. Most oat milk will absolutely spike your blood sugar because it's essentially liquefied carbohydrates. However, when you choose the right type and use it strategically, oat milk contains a specific compound that's been called nature's metformin. Here's why it matters. One of the most dangerous aspects of poorly controlled blood sugar is what happens to your visceral fat, the deep belly fat that wraps around your organs. This isn't just cosmetic. Visceral fat is metabolically active, constantly pumping out inflammatory chemicals called cytokines that worsen insulin resistance, raise blood pressure, increase cholesterol, and dramatically raise your risk of heart attack and stroke. Before you know it, your waist is expanding even though you're eating less. You feel sluggish and inflamed. Your doctor is adding medications, and you're caught in a vicious cycle where poor blood sugar control creates more belly fat, which creates worse blood sugar control. That's not just aging, that's inflammatory visceral adiposity. And there's growing evidence that it's addressable. Oat milk, specifically unsweetened versions made from whole oats, is loaded with beta-glucan, a type of soluble fiber that's been extensively studied for blood sugar control. Think of beta-glucan as a protective shield in your digestive tract. It forms a thick, viscous gel that dramatically slows the breakdown and absorption of carbohydrates, preventing those sharp glucose spikes that trigger insulin surges and fat storage. Beta-glucan also feeds beneficial gut bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which directly improve insulin sensitivity. The research here is meaningful. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that participants with type 2 diabetes who consumed 3 grams of oat beta-glucan daily, roughly the amount in 1 cup of quality oat milk, experienced significant reductions in post-meal glucose spikes and improved 24-hour glycemic control. Even more impressive, they showed reductions in visceral fat after 12 weeks, suggesting improved metabolic function. So how do you use it? Keep it simple. This is critical. Choose unsweetened oat milk that specifically lists whole grain oats or oat beta-glucan on the ingredient list. Avoid oat beverage or oat drink loaded with oils and additives. It should have less than 2 grams of sugar and ideally 2 to 3 grams of fiber per serving. Use 1/2 to 1 cup in your morning oatmeal or smoothie. Yes, I'm recommending oat milk with oatmeal because the fiber compounds synergize beautifully. And here's a detail most people miss completely. Consume oat milk cold or room temperature, never heated above 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's why that matters. Beta-glucan's molecular structure and its ability to form that protective gel are temperature dependent. When you heat oat milk to coffee brewing temperatures around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, you denature the beta-glucan, dramatically reducing its viscosity and blood sugar controlling properties. This is why some studies show benefit and others don't. Temperature matters. If you want it in coffee, let your coffee cool for 5 minutes first, then add the oat milk. Same milk, dramatically better delivery of those blood sugar stabilizing compounds. Something as accessible as oat milk, controlled glucose spikes, reduced visceral fat, improved insulin sensitivity, no pill, no procedure. The top 2 are where things get really interesting, and I promise, the number 1 choice is going to surprise you. Number 2 is goat milk. It's rich, it's slightly tangy, and I know what you're thinking. Isn't goat milk still full of sugar and carbs like regular milk? Yes, but here's what makes it completely different and why emerging research suggests it may be one of the best options for diabetics over 60. Here's why it matters. As we age, our digestive system produces less lactase, the enzyme needed to break down lactose, the sugar in milk. But even beyond lactose intolerance, there's something else happening. Chronic low-grade gut inflammation caused by large, hard-to-digest milk proteins, specifically A1 beta-casein found in most cow's milk. This inflammation damages your intestinal lining, triggers immune responses, worsens insulin resistance, and creates something called leaky gut, where partially digested food particles enter your bloodstream, causing systemic inflammation. Before you know it, You're dealing with bloating, joint pain, skin issues, brain fog, unpredictable blood sugar, and an immune system that's constantly on high alert. That's not just aging, that's casein-induced gut inflammation. And there's growing evidence that it's addressable. Goat milk is loaded with A2 beta-casein, shorter-chain fatty acids, and naturally smaller fat globules. Think of it as milk that's already pre-digested for you. The A2 casein is structurally different. Your gut can break it down easily without triggering that inflammatory cascade. The smaller fat globules mean better, faster digestion. And here's the remarkable part. Goat milk contains oligosaccharides, the same prebiotic compounds found in human breast milk, that specifically feed beneficial bacteria linked to better glucose metabolism. It also has higher levels of medium-chain triglycerides than cow's milk, giving you those metabolic benefits we discussed with coconut milk. The research here is meaningful. A fascinating 2021 study published in Foods compared metabolic outcomes in adults with type 2 diabetes who consumed goat milk versus cow's milk over 16 weeks. The goat milk group showed significantly better glycemic control, reduced inflammatory markers, and improved gut microbiome diversity. Researchers suggested that the unique protein structure and prebiotic content were responsible for the superior metabolic effects.